Welcome to the
morning.
fourth Juice meeting and the first for the month of May. Thank you for showing up. So to please the next screen. So to please the next slide. Yes, so today would be having a panel discussion and talking about how three young people decided on a career path and would just be following their journey today. So next, please. Next, please. Somto.
Right. Maybe I can let me try continue screen sharing. So
I think there's a time lag.
oh, okay.
Okay. So I don't think there are actually any students on the live meeting, but in case you are watching this after, please drop a comment. If you're on YouTube, drop a comment in the YouTube on the comment section telling us where you're joining from and your school, if you don't mind. If you're joining live from Instagram also, you could send a message just to mark a little attendance and we know where you're joining from and what school you're joining from. And thank you in advance when you watch this eventually or when you join later. Next. So Otun Obafalawe, the vice chairperson for Juice Africa and your official host for today. I have a BSc in chemistry, currently doing a PhD and a master's in analytical chemistry and environmental pollution. Still finding my way in the career path, currently work as a lecturer in a federal university in Nigeria and enjoying the new path I've chosen and making the best use of it. So again, welcome to today's meeting and thank you to our panel speakers for agreeing to do this with us and for us. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to give a brief introduction about Juice Africa for first-time participants or people that will be joining for the first time. So Juice came about thanks to Adeze Okeke. This was a vision and it was basically born from the fact that most children would usually be asked, what do they want to do when you grow up? And at the end of every Juice meeting, I think the goal is for this question to become clearer, for you to be able to answer this question much more confidently than you would, and not just saying, oh, I want to become a pilot because my dad wants me to become a pilot or I have one tiny aeroplane I like to play with, but making informed decision on what you want to do when you grow up based on your strengths, based on your abilities, based on the stories you've heard from our speakers. And I hope today's section would bring more clarity. So when you are asked, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up at the end of every Juice meeting, you should be one step closer to having the right answer. And you're allowed to sample various opinions or various ideas until you settle for the right one. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of being a child. You have the time to explore things before you grow up and finally decide on one thing. Thank you. Next slide, please. So in Nigeria, we noticed, or in Africa generally, we noticed that there is a career exposure deficit. Most children are not aware of possible career paths that are available. Like when I was young, we have a product manager today, and up until 2 years ago, I didn't even know that was a career path, like being a product manager. So one of the ways Juice is solving that is bringing people from different careers to come and talk, have presentations, and basically expose us and let us know that these are the available career paths. Would also be organizing subsequently, would be having just career fairs where different companies would come, different professionals would come, and we can have a chat as students, you can have a chat with these people and what are the available career paths in this course you've chosen. Also, there's a career mentorship deficit. Most people that they've chosen a career path early on in life, they've had a good percentage of them have had mentors that have directed them. But for some people like me, who did not have mentors, we've had to dilly-dally and go all the way before finally finding the right path. So JUICE offers that opportunity, a one-on-one mentor-mentee relationship where you can interact with, or you can have a mentor mentor you in a definite career path, show you the ways what to do and what not to do. So basically, learning from experience and making sure you're not making the same mistakes with the older generations have made. Also, there's a lack of college or university preparation programs. Again, as a Nigerian child, there was a very clear path for me. You write WAEC, you write JAMB, and then you write post-JAMB. But later on, I found, or I got to know that there were so many other, okay, so for some schools in Nigeria, you would write SAT or GCSEs, but these schools are few. They're very few and in between. So JUICE is going to be bringing you opportunities that are not limited to writing JAMB and post-JAMB. There are so many other options in which you can prepare for uni. So that's one of the things we are going to be doing in JUICE. So basically bringing uni preparation programs, scholarships, opportunities, and all that other good stuff. So I hope you would stick with us through the months and years to be able to enjoy what we have to offer. Thank you. Next, Ada. Yeah, our vision at JUICE is to see a Nigeria where our children's career path are intentionally thought through, not just stumbled into, not just because someone told you that, oh, this is a good course or this is what is available because your cutoff mark is, your JAMB score is 205, so you have to study education or you have to study human kinetics. I'm just listing the list represented courses. So, but intentionally thought through such that we've helped you prepare to get into the courses you want to, and you're not just stumbling. Like for me, while I chose to write JAMB, I put in chemistry in my JAMB form. So I was very well informed about what I was getting into. And until today, I have stuck with chemistry. Unlike most of my other classmates that had written medicine, pharmacy, and because they couldn't get medicine and pharmacy, they sent them to chemistry. So I think that difference, it makes a difference when you intentionally choose a course and you get into that course. There's a dedication and focus that comes with doing what you actually want to do and not doing what you were given. Yes, so JUICE would expose young children to as many career paths as possible, not only the traditional career path, but also the future career paths that are emerging. And we are hoping that by doing this, children and young people are equipped with insight tools that are necessary to thrive and stand out in these careers. Thank you. So how can you be a part of JUICE? So if you are watching this later on or you join this meeting later on, how you can be a part of JUICE is by attending our events that holds once in every 2 weeks. As many people as are present on these meetings, the more it is, or the easier it is to get information out there to other people, the easier it is for you to talk to a teenager that you know about career paths. So the wider the spread of information. So the more knowledgeable everybody is about careers and choosing career paths, the more younger ones can get help. Connect with our social medias and share our content on social media. Again, the aim is to reach a wider range or a wider set of people, right? So it's Juice Africa, not just Juice Nigeria. So when you share, we all know the power of social media. So when you share on your socials, someone from South Africa would see this, someone from Kenya would see this, and it would be a blessing to them. You could also become a member of Juice. So you're an active member of Juice, you get updated information about our events, and you're basically just part of something big. If you're in a well-defined career path, if you think you're in an interesting career path, if you're on a career path that is going into extinction and you wouldn't like for it to go into extinction, you could also become a mentor where you mentor younger ones into basically cutting them to come into your career, literally. So you could become a mentor. You could also sponsor our meetings. Subsequently, or in the future, we are planning to have viewing centers, basically viewing hubs in underserved area where they don't necessarily have access to the internet and can't join our meetings with their phones. So when we have viewing hubs, they can all come into the viewing hub, and then we project this sections or the meetings live. So partnering with us to sponsor some of these events would be a good thing. You could also become a career partner if you work in a company that I would say if you work in a company that is interested in internship, that offers internships to university students, secondary school students, you could contact us and just would be a career partner. Tell others about Juice, basically spreading the good news of Juice, that there's a career education program in town, and telling one or two people. And ultimately, which I think is the most important, is connecting a teenager to Juice, because they are the focus, they are the reasons why we have Juice. So catching them young is super important, and connecting a teenager with, and I think everybody should connect a teenager or two once in a week. So thank you, Adan. Thank you, as you call into Juice. So today
Thank you.
we'll be having a panel discussion and following three professionals on how they've chosen their career path. And following three professionals on how they've chosen their career path, and basically just listening and following their journey. So today I have Mr. Adekunle Smith, a lawyer, and I'm not going to give a thorough introduction because I would like for them to tell me about themselves. And I have Miss Uche Chika, an actress, and Mr. Pelumi, a project manager. So they would be our panel speakers for today. And I'm glad to have them here and can't wait to hear the good things they have for us. So welcome, panel speakers.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. So first question, what I would like to do. So like I said, I did not introduce you guys properly because I wanted you to introduce yourselves. So in very simple terms, can you guys tell me about yourself? What do you do and what's your job like? What does it entail? Anyone can go first. So I think Mr. Pelumi is on here, so you can go first.
Okay. All right, thank you, Fala. My name is Pelumi, and like Fala said, I work as a product manager. Currently, I've been in the product space for about 7 years. Overall, if I'm to sum my total career experience, would say about probably 10 to 11 years, going on 11 years now. And I think I enjoy product a lot because for me, it's all about building solutions, basically, helping people achieve things faster because that's what technology does for you. So I'll say I enjoy that a lot. I've been able to help different organizations that I've worked with to, sort of have meaningful or good products out there that have helped customers to meet their needs, or help these companies generate revenue and things like that. Yes, so it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah, Miss Chika, can you go next? Thank you.
Miss Chika is very strange, but thank you. My parents named me Uche Chika, and my father's name is Elumelu, and I'm probably one of the most intense people you could meet. I was a nerd. I have been a nerd all my life, so my career choice is kind of very surprising to a lot of people. I'm an actor, creative consultant. I just like to make people. Comedy is my thing. Of course, there are already other genres that I do, but I just really like to affect an audience. I've always done that, and I've done that professionally for 8 years now, and counting. Nollywood is a very interesting place. It's a jungle, and it's been an interesting ride. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Kunle Smith.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think my job is kind of easy, yeah, because every parent wants their child as at that time to be a lawyer. Lawyer is one of the lawyer, doctor, accountant, all these things. So I think my job is easy. I'm Kunle Smith. I've been 10 years. This is my 10th year at the bar. I basically represent my clients in court, interpret legal documents, and drafts. I think I do more draftings than even going to court. As a lawyer, I think you do more draftings. Even when you're going to court, you do more draftings. So I do more draftings. But I also work in the NGO space. I think I have years of experience working with children too. So I think that also counts. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So today we have a product manager, an actress, and a lawyer that does more drafting than going to court. Interesting. Yeah, so my question would be for Miss Chika. So
All right.
when you studied geography and greatest you right?
Ah, great. First and the best.
Yes, I agree. So yeah, so when you studied geography and you mentioned you've always been a nerd, so how did you find yourself as an actress? How did you navigate your way from being a nerd to geography to being an actress? So can
And well, it's been quite a journey. First of all, I just want to say this, kids, your parents know best. Let me not even just lie to you. They're saying all these things because they love you, and sometimes fear also gets the better of them. And so stay in school, read your books, and get those grades. Very important. I can't even overemphasize it. And so my mother sat me down and made a deal with me. She said, graduate with first class, and then you can do any extracurricular that you want. You can go to the moon, you can go to space, anywhere. And so that was my goal in university. My first year, I thrashed everything, made all A's. So by the time I was leaving and I came to drop the pali in their hands and say, okay, I've done it. Now can I fly? And it's not like I did not like geography. I loved it as a subject, but I always knew that professionally I was going to be in front of the camera from as early as 8 or 9 years old. And now there are roles that I get presently that I still lean on my biology notes or like history, government, things like that I recall that make roles that I'm doing now very, very easy to assimilate. Oh, I'm speaking big on that, make it very easy for me to just play a character and be very convincing, right? There are lots of things that I cannot even overemphasize about that. So yeah, I'm where I feel like my heart wants me to be. I'm where I feel like I'm effortlessly shining at. And it's great. So I think that always having your parents, always doing what your parents are telling you to do with a twist of your own splash of rebellion, just a healthy dash, is always needed. Yes. So yeah, that's how I found myself here, and I've been excited. And now I have my parents say, "Oh my God, do you know my daughter is in this?" My sisters are like, "Oh my God, my sister is in this," and they're so proud. And it has been a long, winding journey to this point. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. for that. Mr. Kule, you have a next question. You've basically stayed on the straight and narrow path. You've studied law, went to law school, you're working as a lawyer now. I'd like to know if you've ever considered any other career aside being a lawyer. Like, have you had moments where you thought, oh, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. Probably I should have been this. Like, even though you studied law, do you have any other passions that you think, oh, you could have explored as a career like Miss Chika?
Yes, when I started, initially, I think my primary school, I wanted to be a farmer. I wanted because I just like the idea of going to the farm, going to like producing, and I don't know, maybe because I saw maybe a documentary on TV, I felt like farmers had a lot of money. So I was like, okay, I want to be a farmer. But my parents they never argued with me on it, but they never just acknowledged it. They just, okay. But I think in my GSS2, I had a lecture, Mr. Bola. I'm going to mention his name. I don't like mentioning him, but I'm going to mention his name. He's my integrated science teacher. And he came to class and he was teaching us, and he mentioned something about criminologists. And he said, oh, a criminologist is someone that studies criminals, studies crime, and all of that. So I was intrigued, and I'm like, okay, I think I would like this part. So I mentioned it that I was going to be a criminologist. And then there was my cleaner, Sister Grace, in school. She heard it. She went to my elder sister. She was, I think she was in SS2 at that time. She went to her class and said, your brother wants to be a criminal in future. So and that one just went home straight, told my parents that I wanted to be a criminal. So I was trying to explain to them that no, it's not criminal, it's criminologist. Oh, no. As in, they flogged the hell out of me. As in, I think they kept flogging me for almost like 2 weeks. Once you just ready to just receive a knock on your head, I'm like, no, I tried to explain that it was our teacher that taught, nobody listened. So after a while, I'm just like, okay, what is the closest to this that they can accept? And when I said, okay, I'm going to study, because number one, I never liked mathematics. I still, if I'm to come again to this world, I still don't like mathematics. I'm sure of that. So I've always told them that I don't like maths. I've always failed maths because I've never had any interest. Don't be like me. Kids that are going to watch, don't be like me. But I just knew that I never wanted to have anything to do with mathematics. So, but law was easy because I'm not going to do anything with maths and all of that. So when I told my parents I want to study law, they're like, oh, hey, now you're not talking. So it was just kind of easy to switch from criminology to maths, to law. Oh. But then even when I finished, I still felt like it wasn't my decision. Because for a while, while I was practicing, I was still having some things to do with an NGO. I was working for an NGO for years, for almost 5 years, but I was still practicing law on the side. But after a while, I just came to like, okay, I studied this law. I have the certificate, and I'm good at what I do, so I can do the two. I don't have to wait for one, and I don't have to put my law aside, because I've always felt this thing I studied for my parents because I just wanted to satisfy them. But after a while, I'm like, I know I'm good at this thing. A lot of people will keep calling me, I need you to handle this matter. Oh, no, if it's not you, I don't want this person to handle it. I need you to handle it. And they're going to pay. So I'm like, okay, let me just manage the two. And then I was able to combine the two, but more on law though, because the NGO work is more charity. Because apart from if you go there full time, you're not really getting paid as you should. So I'm just like, okay, let me just do it. Whatever I get from law, I just channel it into this. And so that has been my trajectory. I've always had this, I don't want to study law. Even to sometimes I was having a conversation with my dad because he stays with me, and I'm like, you know that it was you guys that pushed this law in my head, Sha. But it's not good now that you study this law. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, I think that's my journey in the legal career.
Thank you, Mr. Kule. So I would say you've always been the money-driven person.
Yeah.
Wanted to be a farmer because of the money, to ending up in law and staying because of the money again, which is really not a bad thing considering the economic situation of the country. Every career should be able to pay your bills, really.
Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you very much. Now on to Mr. Pelumi, the product manager. And yeah, it's still quite interesting that you've been the product manager for almost 10 years, and I really did not even know about product management. So like, I think during lockdown was when it became a bit much more popular. So I'd like to ask you why you chose this profession and not just the conventional professions that were very in vogue 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. So starting my career, I actually didn't start as a product manager. I think that I developed the knack for products because of the way my career started. Of course, leaving school then and getting a job, you have to, in most cases, choose the opportunity that comes your way. And for me, school involved me getting a job as, I think it was a business development manager. Then that was my first career, and involved, bringing in like clients and talking to people who sell your products, things like that. I am not so big on sales. I'm not the kind of person that likes talking to people. And the company I worked for then had this enormous target for me to bring in. It was ridiculous. So, and the fact that in school I had a tech background, because I studied a computer and science related course in school. So I had that knowledge, and I felt that, okay, this is an aspect of a profession that doesn't involve sales. Like, all I have to do is just, ensure that I have the technical skills, and then I can build out things basically. So I started pursuing that. And then I began to take professional courses around product management. For me, I think it was one of the parts of tech that I could actually like relate to quickly. So that's why I pursued my career in that. And ever since then, I think it's been beautiful. But yeah, it's really been interesting.
Thank you very much. That's quite interesting because it actually shows how, like Chika said, us studying geography has helped us as an actress, and it's beautiful to see that your study of computer science is what has transitioned into you being a product manager, right? So it's just beautiful to see that. Even though some courses seems like they've been around for years, but it would evolve, and it's beautiful to see how people can evolve into roles based on what they've studied. So yeah.
Yes.
So my next question is a bit not really an insult to you guys. Well, for Mr. Kule and Miss Ochechika, as a child, when you talk a lot, so they used to call me typewriter when I was a child, and everybody just thought I was going to end up being a lawyer. But I outgrew the talking stage, right? So when you're talkative, they call you, oh, you're going to become a lawyer. When you said you're quiet, you like comedy, and also that was kind of, so is there any, he said he's introverted, so he doesn't really have to deal with people on his job. So I guess you guys have answered the question, but again, just for the sake of the younger audience, can you tell us what personality type or how your personality has influenced the job you do, or as a child, how your personality as a child has helped you towards the career you're currently on? Anyone can go first.
Okay.
Wow. Anybody who knows me knows that I never really have grown up. I'm very mischievous. And it helped me. It actually served me because I had a very wild imagination. I have 4 older sisters and a younger brother. So imagine the discipline that household would have had. And my sisters are way older. So when they would give rules, they would call me understanding child because I knew how to, on the surface, be very good. But I had a way of always doing what I wanted underneath. So like I'll pad it with what you want, then in the middle, you now see that, this girl. So that was, and I think that helped me. Like I said, a healthy dash of rebellion always. So when nobody had to chase me to do my assignments. I loved that I was a high flyer in school. So I'll do my assignments, I'll do my work, I'd research, I'd go to the library. But in the middle of that, I will hide instead of going to literary and debating society or Red Cross or what they would want a brainy child to go. I would sneak in between and go for drama club rehearsal and do that and quickly. So because my grades never dropped, nobody thought to really be on my case, right? And so, because I think from an early age, I understood that not that they weren't successful actors at that time, but they just felt like, how do you monetize this? How do you become a success in the African context like that? And I understood it. So I wanted to always have what I may not need instead of needing something and not have it. Do you understand? So as a child, you have to, it seems like, oh, you're growing up too fast, but you have to understand that your parents are coming from somewhere. It's very, very important as a child. As early as 8, like I said, I would tie my mother's old gillies and wear glasses and be reading her old paperwork. She was in admin, to the mirror and act like I'm a newscaster. And I would see Cyril Stober and see Memuna Yahaya. And I really wanted to be like that. And articulate. So I learned how to pronounce words very early. So curiosity, rebellion, understanding that there is a process in life. You have to know the rules before you break them. Very key in life. So yeah, I think that would help you be on your way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. For me, I was not really sanguine. I was more in between. I was more of I knew when to talk. I knew when to assert myself because I had 2 elder brothers, and they were bigger than me, and they were stronger than me. So sometimes, especially when you're playing ball, they can beat you up. But I would always talk. I would always harass them with my mouth. Like they always say, your mouth is too big. So I knew when to talk. Like I knew when to say, I can insist on my rights, but I can't fight them. So they always knew that if there's any time to say something, they will push me forward. I was the third son, the youngest of the sons. So they always push me forward. Now you go and say it because I know what to say. But when it comes to doing the heavy lifting, I was never there. So in between, I was just always okay, and then I was always inquisitive. I think when my dad comes home, he used to work on the island, and then we're staying Ejigbo. I don't know if you know that place, Ejigbo, Ikotun area in Lagos. It's a bit inside after Oshodi Solo. So it comes back very late. So maybe 12, 11, thereabout. I would always wait because he was going to bring newspapers and he was going to talk politics. My elder ones would just go and sleep. Like, when he comes in, we all welcome him and everybody goes to sleep. But I'll come in and ask about, oh, how is Babangida did this, this guy did this, Abacha did this, and he was always, okay, so it was always, so by the time he goes to have his bath, he will give me the newspaper, say, go and read it, tell me what you read. So I'll tell him, oh, this is what I read. And then he'll be like, okay, so what do you think? I'll be like, I don't know, but we'll just have conversations. So I think that was part of the things that shaped me because I knew that there's some subjects I knew from the one that I was never going to do. I knew that I was going to do either politics, something that has to do with maybe governance or something, or law. But I'm like, I never really wanted that law because of I just felt it was too, for the word, because of the children, I don't want this word touche, like everybody just expects you to be a lawyer. So I didn't want to just do what everybody expected. But I just realized that at that time, there were not too many options. My school, you can't imagine I'm telling them I want to be a product manager like Pelumi. Nobody will even understand it. Like, you want to be for what? Like, what is a product manager? So I think law was the easiest for me to say, oh, okay, I want to be a lawyer. And I have a younger sister who is also a lawyer too. So there used to be a bit of, how will I say, it's not rivalry, but a bit of competition. So she goes, oh, she talks, and then so everybody's like, which of two of you want to be lawyers? Two of you should be lawyers, you know, that kind of. So there was a bit of competition, and then I think that influenced me because I loved English, I loved literature, I loved government, and I loved history. I loved those 4 courses. And I was also good in the Bible. So at that time, CLK I used to be the best student in CLK because, so it didn't make sense for you to say, oh, I want to go to accounting. It didn't make sense to say, I want to go to, the first time I saw chemistry textbook, I almost puked. Like, it was so, I was like, how do you expect me to know this? So I think it was just easy. It was at that time to say, oh, let me go for law, let me go for the arts. And I think that just made my job a lot easy at that time, because we didn't have too many options as you have now. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. At least no juice child will be able to say they don't have so many options. Going on to Mr. Kwelumi, how has your personality as a child influenced your career choice?
I think growing up as a child, let me look at it in this direction. So coming from the perspective of being an only child, so that meant that there was not a lot of, going out, in terms of, probably playing with other children. It was more like internal. I had strict parents, especially the fact that I was an only child. So they didn't always encourage, all this going out and all those things. So I was always indoor. So I think that also like affected some part of me being like introverted, basically. But then, I mean, if you look at the way most people in the technology space are, there are a lot of people within that space that are also introverted. Like hardly will you see anyone who is a product manager or who is a software engineer that is really extroverted, because a lot of people just want to focus on that because it involves like a lot of focus. You don't want to make any mistake. For example, I'm a product manager in a fintech space, which deals with people's money. So you don't want to be so extroverted that you make a mistake, right? So it's important that for me, I think most of the other career options that I saw required like a level of, communication. Like I told you, when I started, I was a business development manager, and it required me talking to people, trying to convince them that, oh, this is the best thing, this is the next to sliced bread. Like that didn't work for me. But like I said, most of conversations that I have as a product manager are internal conversations within my team members and things like that. And I think that suited me the most. I mean, I'm not sure I can be an actress or, stand in front of the camera because I'm a very shy person. Even a lawyer, I can imagine defending my clients in court. They'll most likely give the case to your position. But yes, I mean, I think for me, I just had to like know who I am and then look for opportunities that sort of suited my own personality. And, being an introverted person and looking at the wide range of options that I had, I think like working in a tech role actually just, suited me best.
Thank you very much. So I would say for me, I'll just talk about myself a bit. So as a child, I used to talk a lot for whatever reasons. I used to talk a lot, and then I outgrew it, and then I got into that phase where I was constantly asking why. Even till now, if you are telling me something, I'm asking you why. And then I got into integrated science, and I started getting a bit of, how your integrated science teacher will tell you, oh, it's because of science, this is this and that. And that was what made me really interested in science. And then chemistry, because I just saw chemistry was really cool with all the color change, the titration, and also I would say my inquisitive self got me into science. And yeah, I still think chemistry and science answers a lot of questions in the world. And that's why I've stayed. So thank you guys. So my next question is for Miss Uche Chika. You've studied for you to even finish with the first class from UI, you are extremely smart. You're extremely smart, and you've studied geography and all. Did you always, and I know you said your parents had always been, oh, you have to go to school and get the degree, even though you knew you didn't want to work with geography. But did you always know it was going to be acting, or it took you a while to realize, oh, acting was, did you have any other career path in mind aside acting?
No. No, I think I've been very privileged to have clarity of purpose like that. And so I always knew I was going to be in front of a camera. At some point, I thought maybe not acting, I was going to be a host. Like I loved Go Gay Africa, that you know, that couple that used to travel around Africa, right? I love them. In fact, I studied geography primarily so that I could merge those two fields. And one day I still want to have a travel show. I have tried. Well, the forces weren't with me, but I know that one day I'm gonna have a show like that. So at some point I thought that might be something I would just, morph into. And that requires a lot of personality. You have to get fans, you have to be likable, you have to have a following, almost cult-like, right? And so it's something that I still see in the works. I could have been a lawyer. I feel like if I didn't do geography, I would be a lawyer. I mean, there's still some performance there because you have to catch bad guys and think like a criminal sometimes. So I think I would be a criminal lawyer if I weren't an actor or a host or a travel show host. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. And this is just to say for the children that will be listening, one of the aim of Juice is for you guys to know what you want. You can see Miss Uche Chikacha had always known what she wanted, and that was why, despite her wanting to act, but she still had to get a degree. She had to look for something that could merge into what she actually really wanted to do. And we are rooting for your travel shows very soon. Thank you. So my next question would start from you again before it goes round. There are usually misconceptions about professions, about careers. Like for me, when I tell people like teach chemistry, they're like, oh, you have to be extremely smart. And trust me, half of the time I'm on Google asking Google what is an actor or what is it, asking Google a very silly question, right? So for me, I would say science. People would think you have to be extremely smart to be in science, but you really just have to be a very dedicated person to be in science and not someone that can think, not really the literal idea of what a smart person should be. What people just think, oh, you have an IQ of 1,000, so you should be in science. It's not really always. Sometimes it's even more about the perseverance and just how you can withstand difficult situations, literally. Like I was on the field yesterday and I did a lot of arm strength. Like I was knocking things and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. So most times, sometimes it's not even really about the brain work. It's more about the little attributes being able to perceive, yeah, being able to face difficult situations and all. Because when you are doing experiments and they don't work out, you need to be able to go back to it, take a step back, think about what you've done and go back to it. If you are someone that easily gives up, then you wouldn't want to be a scientist because you just get frustrated by failed experiments. So now back to my question, that also different misconceptions about people's careers, right? As an actress, they're thinking, oh, you must have been a dullard for you to be an actress. Like, they don't take, like, generally, like at least in the academic world, when you say you're an actress, nobody's really taking you serious. They say because you were not smart enough to get into law, that's why you're an actress. Actresses are not smart, they're just always dancing up and down. So what are the misconceptions about your career and how are you correcting these misconceptions, or how would you like to correct these misconceptions? Yeah, Miss Huche.
Wait, is that for me? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I
I'm
thought it was
starting
not my
with
turn
you
to speak.
because actresses are the most misconstrued people before I go around.
If I had a wig for every time I heard that, Miss Wanega no go, she no go see my back. Man, yeah, misconceptions. I think people think we're always outgoing. I actually have a lot of colleagues who are like when Pelumi was saying he cannot be in front of camera, I just smiled because I have a lot of colleagues who have this disposition, right? And a lot of people don't know that we can be shy as well. We can be very private people, and people always think you're performing. And even when you're tearing up or when you get emotional in private or in public, people think it's for an agenda, and it's not always. Yeah, because we use our emotions very, very into, how do I put it? Break it down. Because we use our emotions as our toolboxes, right? We have them handy, and sometimes people just think you're always acting. Can I believe anything you're saying? If you say good morning, let me open the door and see whether it's really morning. Or You know, so things like that, I think, are common misconceptions. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I'll go on to Mr. Kunle. The misconception about lawyers, I think, is you always have to wear your wig and your gowns, and you have to be very talkative. So what are the other misconceptions?
There are a lot of misconceptions. I think the first thing is people tell you lawyers are liars. I'm not going to dispute that part because a lot of lawyers lie, but we lie like every other person. We lie like every other person. So when you say lawyers are liars, I'm always like, oh, it depends. But then one of the things misconceptions I had when I was going into being a lawyer, I used to think that you say everything from your head. You have been caught, you're like, oh, my lord, this is it. You're just giving them facts like that, and you're not even looking at the book. Because that's what I see in movies. That's what my parents make me believe. And then even law school makes you want to, the Nigerian system makes you want to quote everything off your head. Whereas even in court, you are taking the laws and you can even be, the judge even asks you sometimes, read it from there. And you're reading it, section 1, sub 2. So you don't have to put everything. It's good to know it. I'm not saying don't know it. But it's almost as if the way they make lawyers to be like, oh, you have to be like Avi Specter, you have to be like all those guys, Louis and all of that. And sometimes when I now went to court and I'm seeing people carrying the books and reading them, I'm like, is this the way they do it? So there's a lot of misconceptions. There's also the misconception of lawyers are very brilliant, like very brilliant, extremely brilliant. I don't agree. I've seen very stupid lawyers. We have our fair share of stupid lawyers. We have our fair share. Well, you know that I was in a university. I had classmates, so all of them are lawyers. When I went to law school, I had about 400 other students. So I have a lot of lawyers around me, and I think we have a fair share of stupid people too. So it's not like, oh, every lawyer, because people would be like, oh, if you're a lawyer, you must be very intelligent. If a lawyer comes to a conversation, everybody wants to listen to him. Yes, I will defer to a lawyer when he's talking about his legal part, because I know I don't know that part if I'm not a lawyer. But it doesn't mean that he's smarter than a doctor. It doesn't mean he's smarter than an actress. It doesn't mean that if a lawyer gets to a set, I was a company lawyer for a while to a production company, Genesis Production Studios Production. That's they produce Tales of Eve, so right. And then I think now the price is right. Sorry, I'm doing advert on the platform. But what happens there? When I got there, I discovered that there's so many things I didn't know about media production. There were so many things I didn't know about acting. There's so many things I didn't know. I was the lawyer. I was just about contacts. Sign your contact today. Oh, give me this, give me that. But later I started to discover that, okay, even in the contact I was doing, there's some things I should have added. There's some things I should not have added. So I began to learn from them. So a lot of times, because I now had friends who are actors and actors, I began to sit with them, ask questions. And because the way people be like, you're a lawyer, you know everything. No, you don't. You only have an idea of the ones you have been having. And then people also believe that lawyers are, I don't know how to put the word because because of the children they feel like, oh, maybe it's about going to court. It's only about going to court. It's only about maybe drafting. There are so many angles to being a lawyer. You can be a corporate lawyer, working with companies, commercial law, corporate law, litigation lawyer. You could be just drafting. You could be a property lawyer, maritime lawyer like Ada. You know, she has so much money. You know, maritime lawyers I know I'll send my account to her. But there are so many angles to law, even entertainment. There was a time that I was when I went into I realized that I was coming from the litigation angle, and I was coming from I know everything, like we know what to do, we know. But when I got there, I had to ask questions like, okay, and it was later I realized that an entertainment lawyer is different from a litigation lawyer. I had to sit down, learn, call other people, teach me, oh, read this, go and study this, read this document before I will even come. There's maritime, there are several angles to law, not just criminal and corporate. So there are different angles to law that a student can actually decide to, I want to be about maritime, which is about ships. I think we had that session on Tuesday. I think that was the last session we had. A maritime lawyer spoke to us. We have property lawyers, all properties in Lagos. Lawyers are being involved. You understand? So those are part of the things that, even for me, I even prefer to do property work than even something, because you make more money from property than most of you are going to court. You are doing none of this. So there are several angles to being a lawyer. You have almost, it's so, the narrative is this way, but the reality is this way. It's so big that you can't just merge it together and say, oh, this is a lawyer. Some people say, oh, we're having property issues, they come and meet me. I don't know anything about property, but you know, sometimes we are Nigerians and we are broke. Sometimes you say, I can do it. And then you do, next 10 years, there are issues over that property. So those are the things that we need to know. So when you say, I want to be a lawyer, there are several things you need to know about being a lawyer. You need to know about employment law. You need to know about even oil and gas law. There's several things, there's several opportunities. So it's not just wig and gown, and I'm going to court and I'm lying like our parents say, you're a liar. You know, there's several other things that when you're a lawyer, you know that there's several opportunities. It's not just the wig and gown. So I believe every child here should know that there are several angles to being a lawyer, not just the ones they see on TV or the ones that the parents tell them or the ones you see in court. There are several other parts to being a lawyer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kunle. So I would like to say this for all the children on here thinking of going into law. We actually have quite a good number of mentors that are in law. So like Mr. Kunle said, law is not only about wearing your wig and your gown. There are so many different aspects to law. And I think that's one way mentorship would help you to know. So if you mentor with a maritime lawyer this year, and you mentor with a litigation lawyer this year, and you mentor with a property lawyer this year, at the end of 6 years, by the time you are ready to go into university or even before the end of law school, you know what exact part of law you want to go, instead of eventually dilly-dallying into various styles before you settle after 10 years into one. So yes, so if you're a child listening to this and you would like a lawyer, a mentor that is a lawyer, please send a message and reach out, and we would be able to hook you up with one. Thank you. Now moving to Mr. Pelumi, our tech guy. So you've studied computer science, and there is again, it's a misconception that once you are in tech, you have to be able to code. I tried going into tech during lockdown, trying to find a new career path, and it didn't end well for me, I must say. So everybody thinks that, oh, if you're in tech, you must be able to code, you must be able to write, you must understand those programming languages, Python and all those. So yes, can you tell us, if as a product manager, do you code? Is that a misconception or is it true? Thank you.
Yeah. So one thing that I would say is this: I have not written a line of code before as a product manager. So it's not necessary that you have to understand everything around, coding or the engineering aspect of things before you go into tech or before you become a product manager. There are several aspects of technology or building a tech product that doesn't involve coding. I'm a product manager. We have product designers as well. These are people that work on the user interfaces of different products that you're seeing. That doesn't involve any coding. It just involves you, but as a tech person, because you're building a tech product. There's also the QA aspect of things. It just involves you in testing out things. So there are various aspects of, technology. Even customer success people, or technical support people, right? You still need to understand the aspects of technology without having to, go into coding basically. So it's not all product managers that do code. We have some product managers that do code. In fact, for one, me myself, I'm trying to take an interest in that now, but it's not like it's a prerequisite for me to actually complete my work. So you don't have to worry. I've had friends that, we all study the same thing, but because, they struggled with, coding, or we had, of course, back in school, then we had courses that had to relate with coding. So a lot of us back then actually struggled with that aspect of things. So that made them just completely hate anything technology. And a lot of people just diversified into other professions. But being part of the tech space now, I can see that that fear that they had then was not needed, because you don't actually need to know the coding. You might have just an idea about it, and then you still perform your function well being in the tech space. So I think that's something that I have some of those ones that, so those friends that ran away from coding or ran away from technology work then, and seeing how things are now with me, for example, they now want to come back and, start becoming someone like a product manager, for example. But, you know, sometimes now some of them feel like maybe it's too late for them to switch. But I feel like that fear that they had then led to those things, right? So you don't always have to think of coding, when you want to enter technology. So I think that's one of the misconceptions, basically.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. So you don't need to learn how to code to switch into a tech career. Thank you very much. So, yes, my next question, I think I'll start from Mr. Pelumi because I'm always coming to you last. So, yes, what's the best thing about your career and what's the least favorite thing about your career?
So the best thing about my career is the fact that I know that when I work on a product, it eventually helps people. So you're working on a, let's say, for example, health products, right? You know that that product that you're working on meets the needs of people out there. And of course, when you get feedback from your users, that sort of gives you more confidence to know that you're doing the right thing, right? So the fact that I know that what I'm working on is helping like thousands of people out there, that gives me like a whole level of satisfaction.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm thinking for the sake of the much younger audience, what is actually a product? Because when you're thinking of products, you're thinking of biscuits, you're thinking of your phone. So what is actually a product? In very
Okay, so I'm sure some of you maybe must know, let me say what's the very common one. Okay, say your social media apps, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, those are products, those are tech products, right? Some of you might be familiar with Uber as well, Bolt and the likes, those are technological products. Now, look at, just imagine I'm the product manager in charge of Uber, right? And, I work on the product and we're able to release it and thousands of users are using it. Now, people can request for rides and take them from one place to the other, right? Now, me as a product manager in charge of Uber, that gives me satisfaction because I know that for that person that needed that ride, imagine the person was stranded and they need the ride to take them to their destination. Now, I know that me being the product manager in charge of Uber, I've been able to help that person leave that stranded situation and get to their destination, right? So that sort of gives me some level of satisfaction, knowing that, something I've worked on is actually of help to people. Or let's even look at, there are some health tech products out there, maybe like an app that helps you maybe get drug prescriptions or things like that, basically, that are needed by, thousands of people. Now, when people start giving feedback that, oh, they're able to get the right prescription from your app, that also gives you some level of satisfaction because you know that you've been able to help people, basically. So yes, I think for me, that's one of the upside. To look at the downside, or maybe something that I don't really like, it's actually the work that has to go into delivering that. Because in working with that, as a product manager, you have to visualize like different things. You have to work with different team members, and not a lot of them are always on the same page with you. For example, I mentioned, the software engineers that do the coding, right? Most of these guys, I mean, sometimes we have to disagree on a lot of things, right? In terms of like structure. And as a product manager, you have timelines to actually release these products to users. So when you're having back and forth, with your engineers, it's it sometimes drags, it makes your work drag. So I'll say that's one of the things. Oh, let's even assume that, I'm sure sometimes when you use an app, say Instagram, sometimes you hear that, Instagram has crashed or something like, or Facebook or WhatsApp has crashed. Now, imagine the product manager in charge of WhatsApp in that scenario, that millions of people, right, don't have access to WhatsApp, right? So you can imagine the lot of pressure that is going to be on, right? So that's one of the downsides to it, right? Because when the product doesn't work well as you expect it to be, then you as a product manager now becomes responsible, for, you have to own the failure, right? So I think that's, one of the, and it's not really like, it's just that you need to, you get to learn, as you work on the product, because it's technology, right? Nothing is ever stable, but you have to learn to just consistently just, work on things better. Yeah. I think someone asked about maybe game apps. Yeah. So product managers here is also, are involved in game with apps, like gaming apps, basically. Just think of anything that involves like technology, your even like your devices itself. There are product managers that are responsible for, ensuring that those things are put together, they meet the requirements and all of those things before they are being sold to users. So yes, that's it from me.
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Mr.
sorry. Just to add this. So if my bank app is not working, so I should hold the product manager because my standing bank app, my GT bank is not always working. So I should hold them responsible.
So to be honest, if you see, that's why today there are some companies that you see that they don't put their address on their website or maybe on their app or something, and it's to avoid backlash like this. So when you see, maybe you are using GT Bank, for example, and you're trying to send money, maybe you're at a restaurant and you can't send money, and the restaurant is holding you. When you see the product manager in charge of the GT app, just hold their neck too.
No, thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
So on to you, Mr. Kule. What do you like the most about being a lawyer? You could talk about your work with the NGA also, and what's the least thing you like about your job?
Okay. The thing I like the most about my job is the fact that I'm able to help people solve problems. I think lawyers solve the basics of what we do is solving problems. Almost everything you do is solving one problem or the other. Some people may have an idea that lawyers add more to the problem. Sometimes we like to add more to the problem, so that's another kettle of fish. But we like to solve problems, and I particularly like that because some people come to you, they don't even know what to do. I'm going to give an example. Last 2 years, a client came, they wanted to export ginger. They wanted to export ginger to Canada. And they met a shipping company and they signed an agreement, took the ginger. They even had to get like a refrigerator in the ship. So while they were at sea, by the time they got to Canada, the refrigerator was lost. And then the client came to us to say, I don't know what to do. Yes, we have spoken with this, my in-house lawyers after this. And we're able to get to court and find solutions to it. At a point, we're able to like sit down and have an agreement because at first we threatened we are going to, write a letter of demand, threaten them, do this, we are going to, and then after a while, the guy sat down and said, okay, you know what, we're going to pay for this. And you could see the clench, you could see the happiness, because it was a lot of money. It was the entire product was going into, and the cost of shipping and everything was going into almost $20 million. You could see the happiness on the face of the client when we find the solution to it. The client was so happy, like, thank God, we don't have to go through the process of going to court, and then we're able to find the solution. So I think it's finding that solution to it. The part I don't like the most about my job is people pay other people so much money. But when it comes to a lawyer, they want to be like, you're a lawyer now. Just know. I remember I went to we had a police issue. A client had a police issue. And then the client called me and said, oh, I need you to come to follow me to the police station. I left everything I was doing. It's about money. So I went to the police station with the client, and then, oh yeah, you know the normal police, bail is free, bail is not free kind of stuff. And then the person popped out a lot of money, paid, and then okay, because at that time the person was not telling me everything about the entire. The person only mentioned a few things, so I didn't know the extent of it. So I told the person, you know what, you are somebody I know, I'll charge you after. So by the time we're done, the person was like, okay, I'll just give you this small money. And I'm like, you spent millions in that place, settling the people that brought you to this place. Me that I left all my job, you see that I was busy when you came here. You don't want to pay me? No, you have to pay well, because people feel like, yeah, you know, before they find solutions to their problems, people feel like, yes, if you tell them, I'll charge you 1 million at that time, they're ready to pay. But once you find a solution to it, and they discover that this thing was not even too big, but they refuse to remember that one of the reasons why we're able to sort these things on time is because of the experience I have. So I'm not just going there because, oh, let's just solve it. No, I'm going there because I have experience. Even sometimes, especially with police, I have so many friends there. I've had so many issues there that I've had. So some of them, once they see you, they're like, okay, I know you before. So they're able to fast track some of the issues you have. But then the person is like, oh, we just spent 2 hours or 5 hours there. And you're like, if I had left you, you could have spent 1 month on this matter. But you know, tell them, pay me well. And they're like, the law, let me just pay you this small amount. And that's one of the issues I have about my my practice. On the part of the NGO, there's no part I don't like about the NGO, apart from maybe the bottlenecks government put around NGOs a lot, because I wouldn't say even for Jews. I met some schools. Okay, let's start from this. When I was having the book clubs, we used to have book clubs in public schools. And I know that schools have reading time. Secondary schools, public secondary schools, they have reading time, 1 hour every week. But they don't have books. So we said, okay, you know what? We are going to use the times they use for that reading time. We are going to bring books from our own library to your school. So they are going to read it, and then we're going to have discussion with them for just that 1 hour. After the 1 hour, we're done. Just that reading time that the government said. And we came to the school said, no, go to the district. We went to the district said, no, go to Minister of Education. Then we went to Minister of Education. They said, no, you not just write to us, write to the, I think it was the deputy governor at the time. So we went to the deputy governor for 6 months. We didn't get any reply, any response to them. And we kept going. They said, don't worry, we'll get back to you, Mr. Smith. At the point, they knew I was a lawyer. So anytime I could say, Barrister, don't worry, we'll get back to you for 6 months. And by the time I'll get back and say, okay, go back to the districts. We have already written to them. That's after 6 months. And I went to the district and said, you know what? There are too many clubs in school. We don't want you to come with your book. And we're like, we are not disturbing anything. We are working with your system. But some principals have been very receptive to us. The part I like the most is for the NGO work I do, is seeing children that could not read or were not passionate readers at the time. You see them in few months. You see them fighting you that I need you to come and give us books. At the time when we started with some of the schools, if you give them books for 2 weeks, 1 month, they'll tell you we couldn't finish it because they couldn't read. But by the time we are able to work with them for a few months, there's a remarkable difference. And then they're not like that. The ones are even telling you, the books you are giving us, they're too small, give us bigger books. And you see the improvement. And that's the joy I get. Even now, some of them on WhatsApp, some of them are in university, they're chatting with you and like, they're seeing that it just gives you joy. Like, oh, I was able to add and make an impact in people's lives. And it doesn't have to be like you make an impact, like you give them 1 billion, but you could just see the remarkable difference over a period of 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And I think that's a beautiful part for my NGO one. But for the legal thing is the money that I do not like there. So, so they should clients should, product managers, you guys should be sending us more money, please.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Thank you. So back to Ms. Uche Chika, you have the most fun career, in my opinion, amongst everybody.
So sorry. Oh, okay. Can I chime in on this same
Yes,
question? Like what I okay. Sorry to cut you short. My friends at Candle Spirit. What I love most about my career is the fact that I am part of the setting and resetting of popular culture, right? I watched a lot of movies that even without reading my books or after reading my books, I was able to see more practical, see it in more practical terms. Like when you read or watch a movie like Inglourious Bastards by Quentin Tarantino, and you would have read about the Holocaust, you'd have read about World War II, but you can see it in practical terms. And I remember in the story, there was a situation where he paid an actor, he sponsored movies to make the Germans look like they were the heroes. And it was actually successful because for years, Germans thought that they were the ones God had championed to wipe out every other inferior race. And I realized in that moment that film was a very powerful tool. And when I watched movies like Tiolua Nile, and I thought about environmental pollution in the environment, and you watch other Tunde Kilani stories like Campus Queen, Magun, and you just know that it re-engineers society, mirrors it and re-engineers it. Matrix, there's so many pictures like that, and I love that I'm a part of that. And the flip side, I do not like that I have to miss so many family events. A lot, a lot. In fact, I joke and say the only wedding I can never miss in this life is my own, and even my own self. Even my own self. So, yeah, I think that's the downside, but I love it. Love it. Yeah.
So now, thank you. My question for you, because again, like I said, you have the most fun career out of all of us. And there's this thing they say where, oh, if you choose a job you like, it doesn't have to feel like you're going to job to work every day, something like that. Do you always wake up in the morning? Because again, there's this opinion or conception about acting where you guys are always having fun. Being on set is fun. It looks like you guys are having fun. You're taking pictures and all those good stuff. Do you always wake up in the morning? I'm sure as a product manager, there are days where Pelumi's product is feeling and it doesn't want to get out of bed or show up at work. And I'm sure for Mr. Kule, there are days where he has very difficult clients and like, oh, I can't do it. And even for me, there are days where I'm like, oh, especially when I have bad weather, I'm like, no, I don't really want to go out today and all of that. But for actresses or actors, it's like you guys are constantly having fun and just dancing and all. Are there days you actually don't want to go to work, or what's like the difficult part of your career?
Operative word is like. Like. But well, I believe that if you do what comes very naturally to you, if you do what sets your soul on fire, you don't have to stress at work. But you do need, there are intricate details, very, very tiny things you have to be very particular about, and that thing takes work and discipline and patience. For instance, if you're doing a scene, many people think that it is the amount of time that they see on screen that we take to film it. So you can see a 2-minute scene, and we spent an hour and a half just on that 2-minute scene conservatively, because you have to do it over and over and over again. So when we get visitors, like Kule was saying, when we get visitors on set, they're so wild. Like, how do I have to do this 20 times? Why do I have to do it 15 times? It's just to get the right take. Yeah, so I think sorry, I think I've lost my line of thoughts. What was the second part of the question?
Yeah, basically, if you wake up every morning wanting
Uh-huh. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So excellence is key, and excellence doesn't come cheap. You can't take it lying down. And don't let anybody deceive you that because you're passionate, you don't have to do the work. For instance, you have to keep fit. That takes a lot of discipline to keep fit. Sometimes you have to gain weight for a character. That means you have to be disciplined enough to gain weight. That's also discipline. You have to learn a different language. You have to learn to speak with a lisp. You have to dedicate 2-3 hours of a day to work with a dialect coach and to listen to a song or to watch movies as you're reading assignments. So those things take discipline. But just take it, have it at the back of your mind that even though it's work, make sure that you're doing it in the thing that you excel at the most, so that passion is just the cherry on top. The base has to always be hard work and discipline. The base is your reading, your studying, your research, talking to people. If you're doing a biopic, if you're making a movie about somebody's actual life, you have to spend time with them to learn their mannerisms and how they talk and what they like and how they laugh. Then on top of that can now be your passion. So whatever it is, whether you want to be an actor, product manager, a lawyer, just make sure that work always has to be. I mean, look at C. Ronaldo. He's gifted, yes, but the man works. The man works harder than anybody in the room. So yeah, just find role models, especially that that are in that line, that work really hard, and watch them. You'll see that, man, hard work is always part of it. But of course, at the end of the day, it's still going to be fun after all. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So basically, even when you're passionate about a career path, you still have to put in the work. Thank you so much for that. So moving on, it's been quite an interesting conversation. And for the sake of the people that just joined, we have Mr. Pelumi, a product manager, Mr. Kunle, a lawyer, and Miss Uche Chika, an actress, discussing with us about their careers today. So yeah, my next question would actually be for the three of you, and it would be, where do you see yourself or your profession in the next 20 years in light of technology? For Mr. Pelumi that works in tech, I think that might be a fairly easy answer. That might be a fairly easy question for him in terms of AI and developments and tech development. For Mr. Kunle, do you think there would ever be a point where a robot would be defending humans in courts? How do you think tech would influence your career in 10 to 20 years? Because, and also for Ms. Uche Chika, do you think we would have, I know that animes and cartoons and all, but do you think there would ever be a time, because everybody's of the opinion, oh, you have to be into tech, you have to get into tech, if not, the AI is going to take your job, robots is going to take your job. And all. Do you think we'd ever get to a point where we'd have robots acting as humans? And considering the fact that their AI or their technologies now where you could, I'm forgetting what they call, there's an app where you could literally put someone's picture, like, I don't know, if I want to look like a doctor, I could have an AI project a picture of me as a doctor. I can't remember what they call it. So how do you think tech would influence your job? And must every actress get into tech and bring in an element of tech into their work? Must every lawyer bring in an element of tech into their work also? And for Mr. Pelumi, how would tech evolve? Or would there ever be a time where there would just be an automated way of creating this product and you would not really need the human input? So how do you think this would evolve with time? Anyone can go first.
Okay, let me go first. I think there was this robot that they invented a couple of years back. Was it last year or something? I think it was last year. And it was given the license to purchase for a few, I think that was, I don't know if it's America, but it was a Western country. But then the lawyers, being lawyers, decided to sue the robot. Decided to sue the robot. But then I think that we are even having the challenges now to look at what is happening now. A lot of people now, even though the AI is still in developmental stages, in the sense of draftings. So you are having people, so many. I think there's all this online where you could just get agreements, and then you just go and put it online, just put it off online, and a lot of people are using it. The only issue is that sometimes, for now, they haven't been able to get that human touch to it, because especially when you are interpreting you are bringing a robot to Nigeria, but then it doesn't know that an average Nigerian, there's some legalities and some things an average Nigerian behaves that you are going to put into consideration when you're, and then the robot may not know. I don't know if in some years may know. So for now, I don't see in 10 years I don't see a law. I don't see the AI taking too much of the legal profession. But in the areas of drafting, which is going to be a lot, in the areas of drafting, you may see them taking take things out of the hands of a lawyer, because it's easy to, once you just look online, check it, just check. I think there are even some ones that there's some online packages that just allows you to download agreements, fill in whatever you think, just add more of that. So I think, and I'm also going to speak on some of the other people's, because to other people too, there's the legal angle to it. If tomorrow you wake up and see Uche's, there's a clone of Uche, an AI clone of Uche, she's going to go to a lawyer to say, somebody cloned me, and I don't know why they're using my image. So those are part of the things that it may get to a point where there may be it may be in a way of agreement or taste, where somebody says, "Oh, I'm an actor. I want to watch a movie on Netflix. I like animes. Some people do not like animes. They want to see the real actors." And then they may now have to be full disclosure. This movie was done by AI actors. This movie, which is where legal is already going, because I can tell you there are meetings already. Even though in this part of the world it's a bit slow. So even in the other places where some of the challenges that people will be having is, okay, you cannot use people's images without paying them. Even if this person has agreed, you have to pay them a fair amount of money. And even when you're watching, you have to also disclose that this is acted by AI, so that people can say, "Oh, this is my preference. I thought I was watching Uche. I thought I was watching Daniel Craig. I thought I was watching Zakoji. I thought I was watching Genova. But was Robert that was acting. So I should be able to get a reprieve for that, because that is not who I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch Uche, not AI. So I think it's going to get to that point. And I'm not saying AI is not going to take a lot of it, but there's going to be a bit of compartmentalization, where they're not saying this is for humans, this is for AI, this is for this. That's what I think. And I think that even some legal minds are already thinking in that direction. And they're already asking for those protections to be made now. It's just that it's a bit slow than the people that are inventing. We are a bit slow. We are more reactive than the people that are inventing. So that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So basically, AI could even create a new part of law, basically.
Yeah.
So the younger generations, the money might no longer be in maritime law by the time you are finishing law school, and the money is now in probably tech law, AI, something, who knows? So yeah, so one of the aims of this panel discussion is to actually see, right? Because you're a doctor today, there was a time where doctors were earning so much money, but in Nigeria now, we know doctors are not generally being well paid. But we can project into the future and let you know, or you can project into the future and know, oh, by the time I finish school even in secondary school, you probably not be finishing uni till the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
In junior school, probably 5 to 7 years. A lot of things would have changed by that time, but you can be prepared for these changes. And that's what this panel discussion, that's one of the aims of this panel discussion. So yes, moving on to Miss Uche Chika. The question.
Okay. So I feel like Kunle Smith is a wizard, because all the things that I put in my notes for this particular question, he just took everything one by one. I mean, it's so just to piggyback off what he said, at the risk of reiterating, that's one of the reasons that the guild, Hollywood Guild of Writers and even actors were really striking for. If you remember last year, where they had a very long strike and people were saying, we don't want to lose our eye, because I mean, my likeness is part of my toolkit. It is my essence, right? If you take it without permission, without authorization, and without compensation, which is really the end goal, then you're ripping me off in the long run. And I think it's called arts and humanities for a reason. The human thing is the meat of the matter. So I feel that there will never be any arts without that human touch. And I think that the solution is now be so grounded, be so good and great at what you do that you will always have a niche for yourself. It doesn't mean that actors cannot have tech skills ready. I mean, sometimes when you're shooting on green screen, you have to know how it works. You have to know how to use your imagination to know that there's supposed to be a dragon there. Let me react. You know, there are pointers, there are things, places where the camera will catch, or, you know, as things are advancing, you can just avail yourself of some of those useful tips. But I believe that once you're great at what you do, there'll always be a balance. They will have to compartmentalize at some point. So yeah, I think that's really how to, and also always have legal counsel, right? They are the Uncle Smiths of your life, the uncles and aunties that you see that are lawyers. You know, once, especially if you're a child actor, if you're getting into commercials, make sure they read everything for you, my dear. Don't be too excited. If a scout approaches you at the park or in school, take the documentation respectfully, right? And give it to an older, a responsible adult, somebody who's in charge of you so that they can read everything, the red letter, the whatever colors of the letters, please. It's very important because you can be ripped off. Adults, as I'm 32 and I still read it like I'm a child. How much more a 17-year-old who's just really, you know, like hungry for fame. So it's very important that you're not taken advantage of. And I think that in the next 10, 20 years, people are going to be very, very legally literate. People are going to be forced from the controversy, from the legal battles that we're going to have. People are going to be forced to be legally literate in the next 10, 20 years. Yeah. So yeah, that's it from me.
Thank you very much. Now on to Mr. Pelumi.
Okay. So for me, I think for one, I don't think I look forward to the day when a robot or AI is defending me in court. So I think that I still need that, there's still a need for human element, right? Or there's no way that, so look at it this way, irrespective of, AI coming into play or technology, it is still the humans that still train this technology to respond the way you want it to respond, right? So I don't think that the human element can ever be taken away. Regardless of whatever technology or whatever innovation that you see come up like years from now, I still think that the human element is needed.
Oops. I think we lost Mr. Okay, it's back. Thank you. Oh, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, but no.
Yes, okay,
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
can hear you.
Yeah, so I think that both Uche and Kule have done like a good job talking about it. I don't think that, regardless of the innovation or the technology that comes, there still has to be that human element involved. If it's AI, you train the AI to actually respond the way you want it to respond. So I think that, in years to come, I, as a product manager, my role would not be, threatened by, new technology.
Thank you very much. So kids, let no one deceive you and say, oh, AI is going to take all the jobs, so don't study for a degree. Because there's this lie going about now where, oh, school is a scam, you don't need to study for a degree. The richest man in the world doesn't have a degree, this, that. Please don't fall for that scam. School is still quite important, and as humans, we would still always be very much needed in every career path, really. So thank you. Talking about the future, how do you see your careers evolving in the next few years? I know Uchechika spoke about wanting to do a travel show, merging our knowledge of geography with acting and hosting and all of that. So can you just tell us how you see your careers evolving? Do you see yourself evolving into new career paths? Do you see yourself staying on this career path? And basically, what are I would say, aside for evolving, what are the career growth track? I don't know if I'm using the right word, right? So as a lecturer, I see myself becoming a professor in 10 years, 5 years time, probably. So like, how would your career progress over time? Are you thinking of staying on this same career path for a while, or would you evolve into something entirely different? I don't know if you understand my question. Yeah, anyone
Okay.
can.
Yeah, okay, let me go first. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes. For me, I will still be practicing law, but I know I'm not going to become an SCN. I'm not pushing law that much to become an SCN. I'm going to be going more into real estate and then making investments in other places because of the kind of experiences I have. Like I said, I've worked with media, I've worked with NGOs. So I'm going to be making more investments in those areas. In those areas. I'm actually starting my own NGO very soon, and I think I have friends who do a lot in the media space. So I'm just going to be partnering with them. I may not be in your face like Uche as actors, but just making investments, which I think is also a career path. Sometimes you can make investments. You can. A lot of times people want to be like, oh, I want to be in the media, but you don't necessarily have to be behind the cameras. You don't have to be a director. You could also be one of the people who produce, who are one of the executive producers, one of the producers, one of the just in other areas where it could be. So for my own part, I'm going to be going more into real estate. For me, and that's why I think I'm going to be doing more work in real estate, but making investments in other areas.
Thank you.
Money, 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 money.
Yeah, Miss Chika, you can go next.
Yeah. My travel show definitely. In addition to that, I'd also want to have my own studio. I actually want to have my own actor studio, because I think that I have a flair for teaching. So I just think it's something I already do. I have started already. I think I'm 3 years in coaching now, and I want to have my own proper studio, an outfit where actors can come and grow and network. And I feel like you can only have that successfully when you've built credibility over years, when you've also gotten some experience of your own and people can trust you. Because if I open up a studio after 2 years as an actor, what am I imparting in others, right? But if I have 15 years on my shoulders, if I have a badge of 20 years, people are saying, oh, that's a reputable person to go to. So yeah, an actor studio definitely in the works. In addition to having a show, maybe become a producer. I'm not really keen on directing, but more on the producing side. Yeah.
Mr. Pelumi.
Definitely.
I'm not sure Mr. Pelumi is with us, but it's quite interesting to see how one career can have different layers and you don't have to stick to one, because there's this Gen Z thing going on how they can't stick to one job for more than 1 year, but you could definitely transition into other things, like see you transitioning into teaching, which is actually quite something and requires extra skills. So that's quite interesting, because sometimes it can be very daunting for young people when you think, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, so I'm going to do law for the next 30 to 50 years, which can quite be scary. So it's okay to transition, or it's okay that during your career line, you would transition into other things still related to your career, but not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily be doing the same thing you were doing 30 years ago when you're 70. So that's very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us so far. So now I'll be asking questions that are much more specific to the students. You've shared your story. I'm sure 1 or 2 people would definitely be motivated to either become an actress, or a lawyer, or a product manager, right? So as a child in secondary school that has been motivated to become a lawyer or an actress, for Mr. Kunle, what subjects do you think are important for that student, right? While for Ms. Chika, my question for you is, you've studied geography before you've gone into before going into acting, would you advise a younger person to actually go directly to study theater art or explore something else before studying theater art or before going into acting? So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. If I mean, my subject, I think for me, every human being, I have this bias towards English. Every human being should have a good command of English language, a good command of English language, because that's the lingua franca, and then that's the way you relate with every other person. That's the way you talk with every other person. So if you have good command of English language, especially for a lawyer, and it can be appalling sometimes that you go to court and you see a lawyer and he can barely speak well. Can barely speak well. And you know that that kind of guy won't be getting a lot of clients. you know that. But I think for a lawyer, English literature, because they are related, but it's a bit different, but they are very related. Because it gives you a command of English, the way you're able to translate, even in court, the way you're able to relate to people, the way you're able to bring your arguments to the fore, and the way you're even able to pass some comments without even, sometimes you're arguing with somebody and you can say some things sometimes that you are not necessarily belittling the person, but the court can just understand it without you saying so much. You can say a paragraph in just one sentence. And that for me is it's hallmark of being a very good lawyer. So English language, government, history. I think that those, I don't know how they do it now, because as at that time when I was in school, government and history used to be the core courses. And then I think I did CLK, and I think some other people were doing IRK, depending on the, because there are other people, some people are studying Islamic law. So I don't know the requirements now, but I know, let me just leave the CLK part, because, but I know CLK is an art, but I don't know the requirements now, so I wouldn't make too much description in that regard. But English language, and government, once you're able to have a good command of those three subjects, I think every other subject is every other subject in the arts is related to those ones. Once you're able to understand them and know them well. I used to be one of the best students in government, and I used to be very good in, because my elder brother used to be very good in literature. So my literature teacher would come to the class and just say, he would just, because my elder brother was in the same school, so he would come, and my brother was in accounting, so I don't know why he was doing literature anyway, but the literature teacher would come to the class and say, Smith, your brother is my best student, so you must be my best student too. So he made me learn literature. I learned literature. I read books. I was quoting poems, like, because he would always come to class and say, Smith, and he would just bring some literature books and say, Smith, go and read this. Bring it back to Bible. And I'll say, this is not part of our curriculum. I say, that's your business. Just bring my literature appreciation tomorrow. And I think those really helped me a lot, because there's so many things there are so many places where I can work. I worked with the media space, and I didn't feel, well, apart from the technicalities of acting, I'm a terrible actor. So, apart from but then there are so many parts of I can relate with every other person. I can relate with an actress. I can relate with somebody in the real estate. I can relate with any person, because I have a good command of English language. And that's why I believe that every student, but students studying law or any student in the arts should have good command of English language and English literature. Thank you so much.
Okay. Miss Chika, please, can you go?
Okay. I think I will really agree with a lot of things that Kunle has said, because coincidentally, some of these questions or some of these subjects are also going to be very helpful for actors. I personally, a part of me wishes I did theater arts for real. And so I made sure that I got all the technical skills that I could do. I made sure that I made friends. I went to, from as early as 200 level, I started to go for practicals with them. And I went to New York Film Academy for a diploma in film acting. So I know that it's very important to have that technical training. And literature is not just even about reading the books that are recommended. Even on your private time, you have to have that curiosity. You have to be a hungry reader for anything possible. Not just because you want to answer the questions and say, oh, what are the themes of this play? Literary appreciation is not only for that. Because figures of speech help you understand what is the subtext. So I'll explain what the subtext is. Subtext is somebody says, I'm coming, right? I'm coming there. Oh, I'm coming, right? I'm coming could be you're moving to a place. But you know how Nigerians talk and we just say, I'm coming, Joe. I'm coming, Joy, is don't disturb me. I'll answer you when I'm ready. But you know, in when you're reading, you get to know that there are different ways that words can be used to mean different things from their literal meanings. And that's one thing I loved about, I didn't do literature in school because I had to choose between literature and geography. So even when I was reading my geography books and I was in class, I always read their literary texts. So when people even talk about Sizwe Bansi is dead, the man died, 1984, Big Brother is watching. Like I already knew those books because I chose to read them. And that's very important. History also very important for anybody who wants to be an actor, because you can't mirror society, you can't mirror humanity if you don't know how the history of how things were done, how things came to be, because it's not just the present you're thinking. Government, of course, I was best SSC government. I'm so proud of that badge. Government was like my absolute best. I had the best SS2 teacher, brilliant, Miss Adebi. I'll never forget her in my life. She really taught us she grilled us. Yeah, and civics as well, because you also have to have good interpersonal skills. You can't just be on set and say, I'm the best actor. You're not in isolation. You're not working in isolation. So you have to know how to, even though you're shy, you might have your own personality quirks, but you have to know how to express yourself and work well as a team player. And I'll also say this, I think a lot of the curriculum of secondary schools always make sure that you have some compulsory courses. There's always maths and English. I think you have to do one science course. Even when you're doing that biology as an art student, don't take it with levity, because you might grow up into an actor like this and you have to play a role in which you have to be a doctor or a microbiologist. And there are a lot of those things that come through. Like sometimes I see a line that's wrong and I'm like, no, this doesn't go well. Like, meiosis, mitosis, like we need to check this. If you don't have that inner compass because you've done your homework and you didn't just cram to pass, you actually study these subjects in school, they never leave you. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's right here in my head. It will be right there in your head till you're in your 40s. So don't ever approach it as, let me just cram lapor. No, learn and be curious about life genuinely. Yeah, so that's all for me on this front.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pelumi, can you speak, please?
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can clearly.
Okay. So for me, in terms of subjects, to be honest, I think that as a product manager, there are different things or different subjects I would say plug into it. So sometimes it's not all about just the technology side, say computer science or so. There are different aspects to economics, because at the end of the day, whatever product you're working on, there needs to be some sort of revenue that you're making from that product. Uber, for example, is not just going to spend millions of dollars building their products and then not make any money from it. So as a product manager, you also need to have, that vision as to, like a forecast of how much revenue you want to get from your products. So there's also probably like a finance aspect, say business studies and things like that, for you to understand like different business landscapes, policies and things like that. You need to understand. Even there's a little bit of legal in it, because there are certain licenses you need to be able to build certain products and operate in, different ecosystems. So you need to understand. So I wouldn't say that there's one particular subject, because product management sort of touches on like several subjects basically. But what I can say is that, the basic thing that you might just need is the technical background. So say computer science or, things like that, basically. I think that'll be very vital. And then you can pick up the other subjects, around it, because they are also very important for you to actually succeed in your product management career, basically. So that's just what I have to say about that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pelumi. Thank you to the three speakers. Thank you for sharing your wealth of experience with us today. We really, really appreciate you. So at this point, this is the end of our discussion, and I would like for anybody with questions, you could just raise up your hand or mute your mic and ask a question. Or if you're somewhere noisy and you cannot talk, you could type your question in the chat box. Questions, opinions, and for any
To touch upon, sorry to cut you short. To touch upon a question someone asked about stakeholders, who my stakeholders are as a product manager. I think for me, my major stakeholders are my end users, right? So either the customer, because there are different versions of products. There are B2B products, there are B2C products. Now, B2C products are products that you build for different customers. So you think of your Uber, you think of your maybe Jumia food and things like that. Those are products that you build for different customers, like an entire customer base, right? So in that regard, my status in that regard will be those customers, because they are the primary users, right? And then I will now have maybe my management team that I report to will now also be also stakeholders, because how that product also affects the business, they also have a decision to make around those things, right? So they also are my stakeholders. Now, B2B products are products that you build for other businesses to use, right? So let me think of maybe like a Flutterwave. So Flutterwave, for example, they have a digital payment solution where, different businesses can like receive money, basically, right? So you are building that product to satisfy another business, right? Not for customers. So in that scenario, those businesses will be my clients, right? And at the end of the day, those clients are now my stakeholders, right? So it depends on the type of product that you're building. Those type of products will now determine who your stakeholders will be. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Any other question, please? And if you're a child and you're watching this later on any other person really, and you have a question, please, you could always slide into our DMs on Instagram and Twitter. On YouTube, you could drop your question in the comment section on YouTube also, or send us an email if you are going to be watching this after. Oh, interesting. Connections are being made. So questions, please. Is there anyone with a question? Okay.
Okay, I think I saw a question earlier. I think Ada posted a question about, does a child have to do theater arts? If I'm not mistaken, yeah. So yeah, I think in our parents' time, I mean, our parents were not really big fans of it, right? But I think that things are changing. The landscape is changing. Nollywood, in particular, is getting more structure by the day. So I think there's good PR for actually going to theater arts to learn. And this is why I would say I don't like to endorse this idea that you can just fall into acting. Anybody can act. You always know the difference between people who did not have any theater training and people who just happen to. Do you understand? And this is no disrespect to them. Even those people who are passionate, check it. They always have to go for one kind of refresher course or you always have to get some skills, even if it's a 6 month to 1 year program, right? So to save yourself that stress, just do your 4 years. But what I would advise you is don't be in too much of a hurry to specialize. For instance, I knew I didn't have my parents' blessing to study theater arts, but I made sure that all through my years, I was in drama club. I know I was hiding for a lot of maybe like my junior school or primary school, but I always made sure. And by the time I got to SS3, I was already performing on assembly. I was deputy head girl on one side and I was drama club president on the other. So even though I knew I was not headed towards that actually being a thespian, I knew that I was gaining my tools. And then when I was 19, I went to New York Film Academy, got my diploma, and then I just started to do their practicals from 200 level. So don't just think that you can just be happy-go-lucky about it and say, let's just be acting. Acting is really not like that. There's a structure that you need to be used to. And of course, there's the reading that you have to do by the side. So if you have parents who, bless their hearts, they are still not fans of theater, it's fine, do what you will have to do, right? But always remember that you're extracurricular. You will have to make sacrifices in your social life, or you can't be partying, you can't be going for every function, but you know that I have to have 2 lives. I have to do what my parents are saying, but I have to also pursue my dreams. And one day, when your parents see that you're really serious about this thing and it starts to yield results, trust me, they'll be your fans. You don't even have to stress about it. They will be your fans. So that's what I would advise any child who might be, a bit undecided about that.
Thank you very much. Interesting. Our panelists has a question. Mr. Kule, you can go.
No, it's not necessarily a question, because what she just said now, I have a lady in my church who our parents are like, she wouldn't dare go and study theater arts. And then she came to meet me and I told her, see, and everything Uche said, because these are real life situations. These are real life situations that sometimes we're asking questions because of what people have asked us. So one of the things I told her is, I tried to speak with her parents, but the parents did not even they didn't want to listen. So I said, you know what, go and do what they asked you to do. But it now means that your own spare time, who are the people you are going to be associating with? You are going to go to a university, there's going to be the theater art guys. Are you relating with them? There's some things I knew from departments where it's because my friends are there. There's one of my friends that he knows how to, I think when we were in school, we used to go to the moot court. So he can do everything a lawyer can do. Even most of it, I still don't know how to knot a tie. My friend knots all my ties. It would be like, I wanted to study this law, but I didn't get admission. So he was studying pole science. He will knot all my ties. He has all this stuff. He will go to, even sometimes when he's free, he will go to my class with me. And then we'll say, oh, what are they doing? Oh, what are you guys doing? And then there are so many opportunities. There's so many houses. Freedom Park, I think there are some, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have some glamour sometimes. So, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
We
Okay.
can.
So you can make friends there. There was a time at my network is messing up, but I just encourage them, also go online, look at scripts, try to act some of them in the comfort of your house. So you have to go out. Some scripts and say, oh, okay, most don't even need to check it, and then just begin to act it. Look at the movies, especially the classics. Look at them and begin to act them, especially when you're watching them. Oh, this person did this, person did this. You learn yourselves, and then you don't necessarily, if you have the opportunity, yes, study theater arts. But if you don't have, try to as much as possible your spare time and also give yourself to that place. But after a while, your parents will say, okay, you know what, you have done the one you want to, you can go and do whatever you want to. Thank you so much, Chika.
Thank you very much. And just to reiterate, Miss Chika, right? Even despite her passion for acting, she still graduated with the first class. So that is not an excuse for you not to do well at school or at whatever course you eventually study. It's really not an excuse. And she said something about excellence. It's actually non-negotiable. And it's going to reflect both in your passion and what you really want to do and what you are studying. If you're an excellent person, you're an excellent person, period, as a Gen Z. So yes. So thank you very much. Again, in the absence of any other question, we would move on. Miss Ada, do you have anything to say?
No, I just wanted to say that we're very, 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 over time. But I just wanted to if it's okay, I can, wrap up and then we can close out. But of course, like, thank you so much. And I low-key want to wrap up because I also want to like very much say
Anytime you get one, just take your baton.
I really want to say thank you to Fola for this excellent moderation. Genuinely could not have done it better myself. You asked some very insightful questions. Just so you see, I'm here taking notes, like genuinely taking notes. So I always say that it's really interesting where we set out to do this for secondary school students, but somehow I'm learning every single session. I'm learning, I'm gaining a lot of stuff. And this is why I say this is not just important for the students, it's important for the parents, right? We spoke a lot today about like just that issue of parental consent versus, doing what you want to do. This is why it's important to get the parents on board, get educators on board, get teachers on board, get counselors on board, get people who have, if you're a Sunday school teacher, you interact with these students, get them on board, right? I cannot preach enough the essence of preaching the good news of Jews to people. Exactly. This is what happens when you have double MSc. This is the kind of excellence we see, with Fola, but also with Chika, like, genuinely an actress with a difference. I took so many notes, like just on a personal basis, Chika and I went to the same secondary school. She was assistant head girl. She was brilliant. So honestly, when she went into acting, I said, ha, 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 but she is so excellent. And she was speaking today and I was like, you know what? Genuinely, when she said that excellence is key, I got it, right? I got it. I understood it because I could see someone whose life had been genuinely so excellent. And for some reason, I paid attention more to her academic credentials in secondary school and not really the thespian side of her. So her saying these things, I'm like, you know what? It makes sense and it shows that as a child, this is something we're going to speak about in next 2 weeks, but building your portfolio from when you're a child. Don't wait till you come out of school and you're like, okay, now what do I know? You have to, and this is even how you get the best opportunities into the best schools, into the best programs, starting to curate your portfolio from when you're a child. So Kunle, huge regards for you because I met Kunle while volunteering with the NGO he works with, and just a lot of regard for him and the work he does and the brain behind what he does and the heart behind what he does. Genuinely, such a great person and excellent lawyer. So thank you so much for gracing us with such wise words for the kids. And I loved that you kept it so simple for the kids, like real life examples and and I think it's something because you work with kids a lot as well. You could just, get there with them. So thank you. Thank you, Pelumi, so much for your, this is the first time we're having a tech person on this space. And I point that out specifically because, tech is every child, oh, I want to do tech. What in tech? I don't know. Do you know how to code? I don't know, but I want to do tech. And it's just so nice to have you here to break it down for the kids. Again, Belumi is a really good friend of mine. We go way back. And so it's really nice to see how he, in fact, I'm going to probably have him on a very personal session, but see how far his career has come and how far he's grown. So it's really exciting to have all of you on board. And I'm so honored that you guys graced this occasion. And hopefully this recording is going to go out to secondary schools. We're going to get it in the hands of the people who need it, parents, teachers, and the kids themselves. So there might be 10 of us here, but this is recorded and the work you do is going to reverberate through generations. I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that's Juice has that potential, right, to impact the life of kids, to help a child now who is probably arguing with their parents. I want to do acting. No, don't do acting. No, you must do law. To see that the two worlds can genuinely coalesce and that they can be whatever they want to be. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to the people who are here till the end of the session. It means a lot. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Fola, with your 2 MSCs. This is the kind of excellence we preach in Juice. So thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, we'll be wrapping up now. And thank you, and see you in 2 weeks. We'll be sharing our flyers and sorry, not the flyers, the meeting links for the talk for the next 2 weeks. And we'll be talking about preparing for university. How should you prepare for university? So everything Ms. Chika has actually said today, like literally ties into that. So let's get excited, and please bring someone next week, bring someone, preach the good news of Juice. So that by next week, there'll be more of us listening and learning and supporting the young people around us. So thank you, everybody. Have a great, wonderful weekend. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.